Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of March 2025. I hope you are well, and I apologise that this is late in coming out. I have rather been plagued by migraines for the last week, and unfortunately that has somewhat interrupted my productivity. Nevertheless, I think that this is significant enough a month that, it's still worth reading for. So apologies that you've had to wait. But it is what it is, right? So what do I have to tell you? If the reading resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, you can do so by way of the extended that will be available at the end. Link for that is in the description box below. Please note, if you are buying a singular video rather than coming over to join Circle, we are moving away from Vimeo because of egregious practices by them. I do understand that they have walked those back, but no, trust has been fractured, so we're not going that way. Selfie appears to be working really rather well. We did have a few teething issues, but I mean, that's always to be expected. And to be honest, I was able to fix those issues, which I could never do when I was on Vimeo, because I just didn't have access to anything useful at all. So we're going to give it a go for another month, see how it pans out for people. Overwhelming majority of people seem to be having a much better time with it actually than they were with Vimeo, so that's good. Anywho, yes, Circle is available. We're doing classes and all sorts of things over there. That's all very cool. Right, we're doing something a little bit different this month, just because I felt a little bit like the energies warranted it, which is to say we'll be taking an oracle card from this deck here, which is the Liminal Forest by MJ Cullinane. I've actually had this for a while, but because I was moving, I didn't take it out of the box, and then it was packed up for a bit, and then I got it out. And finally, last week, it sort of sang to me from the corner of the room, so I thought, well, I'll get you out the cellophane, see what you're about. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then as I was doing these readings for March, I was like, I need to pull one from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip around, and we're going to take a card from here, we'll put it to the side, and we'll look at it at the end, see how it ties everything together. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2... and big one for the end. And we'll cut the deck here. That's your card. I'm going to move these out of the way. Like I said, we'll look at it at the end and see what's going on with that. But let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Aquarius. Can I have 3 cards for Aquarius, please? Right, so we have the first card, Knight of Wands, on its side. We've got, in the current position, we have the Sun. Oh, that's really rather glorious. Represents Leo, which is your opposite sign in the zodiac, which is illuminating. Let's put it that way. What's coming towards Aquarius, please? Thank you. We have the 7 of Cups with, interestingly, the Tower at the bottom of the deck. Now, I say interestingly because this card actually already showed up once when I was talking about my migraines, and I split the deck. There it was. And I have to say that quite a few of the signs have had Tower energy in it. So please don't feel like you're being singled out. I don't think necessarily this Tower is as dreadful as it could be. It seems more like breakthrough energy to me than anything else. I mean, to be fair, the Tower card, when it shows up, although it has a reputation for being kind of scary, does represent some sort of change of direction going on. And we find ourselves in a month where currently, at the point I'm recording, we're in a Venus retrograde. We're having an overlapping Mercury retrograde that starts on the 14th, I think, the 14th of March, 15th, because on the 14th we have a lunar eclipse happening in Virgo. Now, I can't speak to exactly what that experience is going to be for you, because you need to have a look at your chart and see what house is ruled by Virgo, right? So then you'll know where this lunar eclipse is happening. But lunar eclipses generally are associated with big endings of some description, right? We've got something coming to an end, creating space for the new thing to come in. And in the solar eclipse on the 29th of March, we may well see that happening. The solar eclipse is happening in the sign of Aries. It's part of this big cluster of energy that is happening in the sign of Aries, which is fantastic for new starts, new direction, new creativity, new passion coming through, new directions, full stop, actually. And we also have Neptune moving into Aries this month too, which is happening on the 30th. So it's a month where there's a lot happening. And I don't know about you, but I've been feeling that. Now, I've made a concerted effort to stay off social media, to stay away from news and TV, and actually, as far as possible, screens full stop, because I think that's probably contributed to just sitting here with the lights and the screen and all this kind of thing. I think after a while it gets a little bit too much. And nevertheless, even I can recognise in my little isolated spot in the Balkan Mountains that it all feels a lot, but it feels quite constructive in your reading here. It doesn't feel to me like it's anything too dreadful. And the tarot rarely is long term. Well, it isn't long term. It's very, very good long term. Anyway, Knight of Wands. We have the Knight of Swords. And we have the Magician on its side. That's Virgo or Gemini energy, depending on which way you look at it. It's actually representing planet Mercury, which is, like I said, going into retrograde very, very soon. But we'll talk a little bit more about the Magician card in a second. Tell me about the Sun. Fascinating. We have the Six of Wands. And we have the King of Cups, which is Scorpio. And what about the Seven of Cups? Why is this here, please? If you're chomping at the bit to get anything done, I'm afraid you're going to have to wait for a little bit longer. But I think waiting a little bit longer would be in your best interests in the long term. Because there's, even if we weren't in March 2025 where we were having eclipses, I would say that there is something being eclipsed out here, making space for something new, and it seems very, very positive. I don't know about you, I think you're probably sick to death of fucking talking about Pluto right now, right? Because it seemed to be all everybody was talking about, and to some extent Pluto's kind of taking a bit of a step back in terms of the prevailing energies of the moment, because there are so many other things going on. I mean, I should also point out that everything that's happening in Aries is being squared by Mars in Cancer right now, but that's not going to continue for too much longer, because that will be moving into Leo, and I do think that will represent a bit more confidence in what we're doing, because it seems to me that everybody feels a little bit like they're spinning right now. Like I said, the energies are really very strong. If you happen to be within a subset of people who have a very clear direction forwards, then don't take that for granted, because it certainly does not seem to be a universal experience right now. Anywho, let me get a little stick up here. And let's just have a little look at these two shadow cards at the bottom of the deck here. Now, if you're not familiar with tarot readings, the shadow card is the one that's at the bottom when you turn the deck back over after you've dealt out all of the cards that you're wanting to look at in your reading. And the idea is that it gives you some sense of what is happening beneath the surface, right? It's almost like an overarching theme of with which you should, interpret the rest of the cards on the table. And it's very much the energy of change, which is very much the energy of the moment. But with the Tower, I think it has quite a lot, although it's ruled by Mars, it actually has quite a lot in common with Uranus, in so much as it's a very sudden, very on-off, unexpected change of direction, right? Uranus is very on-off. It's not a consistent energy that's at play. We get spanked by Uranus, and we know it. Uranus is your ruling planet in modern astrology, right? So you understand this quite well. But it's also the planet of innovation and breakthrough, and we're not in a constant state of innovation. We're not in a constant state of breakthrough. There has to be an assimilation that goes with it. So it wouldn't be in anybody's best interest for Uranus to be just on all the time. Anywho, This Tower card's quite interesting because in the Llewellyn we have an awful lot of water on this card. Now, water within the tarot is the actual signifier of emotion. The cups simply being the vessels that hold the emotion in it, right? And a useful way of demarcating how much water is going on at any given point. What we got is a big swell here. There are big energies, big emotional energies, and for some of you it could be emotional reactions, but it could be, you know, events that are going on that are causing big emotional reactions in you. Now, because of this on-off quality that we were talking about, it's not a good idea to make any decisions until these waters have receded and you see what it is that you are working with, because something big is changing for you here this month. And for once, it's nothing to do with fucking Pluto, right? It's it's a big shift that's going to need an assimilation phase. And the question of why there should be a big shift happening specifically for you here, Aquarius, is probably quite well illustrated by the Five of Pentacles. This is a card of poverty, of lack, or a fear of such. You know, that there are lots of key words that you could associate with the Five of Pentacles, but essentially the Five is a chaotic energy in and of itself, right, which is associated with breakthrough but also breakdown. You know, what is structured within the Four then kind of loses its integrity within the Five, and we realize that actually this isn't foundational. This is not the thing that we need to build on. We need to go through the rest of the cycle that is associated with the Pentacles to find some way to rebalance ourselves. But the point that I would make about this, bearing in mind everything that I just said, is that there is some way or another in which your basic needs are not being met. I see the Five of Pentacles a little bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where you've got the things that are actually vital for your survival at the bottom, and you work up through, to psychological needs and spiritual needs and all this kind of thing. What's being shaken loose for you here this month is a restrictive situation, right? Because Four of Pentacles is quite tight, quite clamped down, that is breaking you free from the ways in which you have not been available to yourself to take care of what needs to be taken care of. Now, for some people, the Five of Pentacles quite simply represents some sort of pecuniary lack, right, where you don't have the money that you need for something. Because I see the Pentacles as energetic currency, what we've got going on much more, as far as I'm concerned, is actually feeling like you don't have the resources that you need, right? And your resources are your time, your care, your attention, right? You can't put those quite in the right place because there are too many other things that are competing for your attention at this time. And the prevailing feeling then that is resultant is this feeling of loss. It's this feeling of not having what you need. And we can scout about in our environment and go, well, you know, everything would be better if I had some of this, or I had a bit more money, or I had a bit more time. But it always comes down to this rather self-reflected assessment of where you are right now and how that isn't really suiting you, and it being time for you to start adjusting your priorities, certainly in a way that is centering you and your needs a lot more than they currently are, but also recognizing where these losses and these lacks are showing up in your life. Now, I did also say, and I want to kind of drum this point home, that sometimes it's not about the lack or the loss. Sometimes it's about the fear that it's incoming. It's the fear of the tower. It's the fear of something coming in and shaking, you know, everything that you've built down to the ground. That can be sufficient to keep us stuck in such an energetic state that we almost guarantee the tower has to set in to set us free in some sort of way. It becomes paradoxical, you know, that you cause the very thing that you are trying to avoid by way of trying to avoid it. And there is no escaping the tower. Now, I have to say, yeah, we've got the Three of Swords underneath there, and we've got the Emperor. That I'm feeling a lot of energy having gone into trying to create some sort of order for yourself that may have worked in the short to medium term, but feels to me like it's reached its expiration date. It's not really working anymore. We talk sometimes about coping mechanisms, and the reasons why they're so successful in our implementation of those is that in the short term, or even in the medium term, they do work very well. But there comes a point where we need to break past what was simply coping in the moment to allow us to grow, to expand, to do all those sorts of things of that nature. And this is saying something is keeping us stuck where we are. It's time to move beyond. Now, it could be, for instance, and we'll use some very basic, very flat interpretations here, that maybe you've been having money issues. Right? Maybe there just isn't enough of it coming in, and you've been doggedly trying to stick to, what has been up until this point a tried and tested formula for you. In, I don't know, bringing in clients or getting a job or whatever it is. Maybe you've been looking at trying to restrict your spending rather than increase your income. And all this is really doing is making the belt tighter and tighter and tighter, making your life more and more sparse. Living quite literally a Spartan existence. When what was necessary was more of a kind of stepping back from it and saying, is it time for me to, evolve out of this situation and start embracing something new? Well, the energies of the moment would say it's very much about the embracing of something new, but sometimes there are so many baseline assumptions that we work to that say, no, this is absolutely fundamental, this is absolutely necessary for any success moving forwards, that we forget to interrogate it. We forget to check that it's still doing the thing that we thought it was always going to do. And this would be true for all sorts of things, but most importantly, the way that you are thinking this month. So we're talking a lot here about the shadow cards, but I do think it's it's possibly something that's been dragging on for quite a long time. Five of Pentacles, that has now got some sort of intervention going on that is going to redirect you to where it is that you are supposed to be. Now, some of you, I'm looking at these cards here, well, actually the totality of them really, may be feeling that need to start branching out into different fields or different experiences, or changing things up in some way or another. And have found it very difficult to isolate what is the expression of the Five of Pentacles in your life. What is it that is kind of breaking apart necessarily? Because it may not have thoroughly shown itself yet. We may be waiting for the Tower to come and provide that illumination. So we start over here with your recent past, and we've got the Knight of Wands on its side here. That's Sagittarius energy. We also have the Son of Swords, which is the Knight of Swords in the standard deck, and that represents Gemini. And then we've got more Gemini stroke Virgo energy with the Magician. Now, if I can just start with the Magician for a second, it is the major arcana card on the table, so certainly in this little cluster, this little trifecta of cards, it's the most powerful. First off, when a card, and this is true particularly recently for me, when a card is showing up, it is energy that is present but not yet activated. It's almost like we can't engage it, but the desire to make contact with it is there. We've just got to find the right way to do it, right? Sometimes it's about particular events having not yet happened that set everything in motion. We're intuitive enough, we're sensitive enough to be able to sense its presence, but that point of connection that we really, really want isn't there. It's not functional yet. So that's the first thing to think about in terms of the Magician. But the second thing is, the Magician is a card of very active will. And I would differentiate it in terms of manifestation from the Lover's card, because the Lover's card for me is about passive manifestation. It's about getting in alignment with where the universe wants you. The Magician is about very active creations. This is the life that I envisage. This is the thing that I want. This is quite simply the thing that I want to manifest. And I'm going to combine my willpower with the correct ratio of elements in order to bring that into being, right? It's not here, not quite. It's present, but it's not yet in a place where you can really make contact with it. It's not in a place where you can go, well, I know A, exactly what I want, and B, exactly how I'm going to manifest it, right? The circumstances that are required. So here's the thing, it's just put me immediately in mind of me talking to my twins. It wasn't last New Year, it was the New Year before, and they were talking about New Year's resolutions. And I said that, well, the problem with New Year's resolutions is that people don't tend to stick to them. And they said, well, why? And I said, the way I see it is that everybody has something that they would like. Everybody has some sort of goal or a plan or something that they'd like to achieve, right? And it can be a big thing or it can be a small thing. And it might be really, really important to them. But what they don't do is consider the ways that they as a person must change to be the person who is doing those things. Otherwise, they'd already be doing them. And they went, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, it's all very well saying that you would like to go to the gym and get fit, right? That's quite a loose kind of thing. Certainly the sort of thing that you tend to move the goalposts on yourself about. I said, but they don't look at the rest of their life and say, well, why is it that I am not already in the gym and doing the thing? And it might be actually because they're really sad, or that they've got, because they work too hard, and what little energy they've got, they put into plonking themselves onto the sofa and, just watching TV or mindlessly scrolling their phone. I was like, until you deal with the root cause of why they're not doing that in the first place, it's kind of difficult to just pluck something out of the air and say, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to create. You need to look at what's stopping you from doing that, rather than using your intention as something to beat yourself with in the future. And they were like, okay, right, I get that. And I was like, so if you want to be the kind of person that goes to the gym, what you can't be is the kind of person who watches television every night. So the very first thing that you would do is make sure that of an evening you turn that television off, right? It doesn't even go on. I said from there you need to think about the fact that it's going to be physically strenuous. So maybe you're the kind of person now instead who wants to go for a walk in the evening, just so that you've got a little bit of you got used to your muscles moving around. And then get really, really clear about why you're going to the gym in the first place. I mean, do you want to look better? Do you want to lift heavy things? Do you want to master some sort of physical skill? Or do you just, is it an altogether health thing? Because without having more detail about what each of these things are bringing up for us, we're kind of setting ourselves up to fail. Right? Now, what I want to make clear is that I don't think that you are setting yourself up to fail, Aquarius. But what I do think is that you didn't have quite enough information in terms of what you wanted versus what you were afraid of losing. Or even, and let's be clear about this actually, what you were willing to lose, what you were willing to exchange to have the space to create the thing that you actually want. That's what the interaction of these two cards is saying to me here. So we've got the Knight of Wands on his side, an energy that is present but not yet active, that is saying, well, I want joy, I want fun, I want spontaneity, I want to actually feel like I'm enjoying my life, and maybe I want to feel like I'm not taking life quite as seriously as I have had to take it recently. If you're an Aquarius ascendant, then you've got Pluto in your first house right now. Oh, that's a big deal. You are going to change dramatically over the next 20 years because Pluto wills it to be so. He's going to show you where all your conditioning is. He's going to show you all of the false crutches of support that you've been using for a long time. And he's going to kick those away, and he's going to make you dig deep for where your power truly is. But on top of all of that, you should be aware that Pluto has been moving through your subconscious, or your 12th house, for 16 years before that. I mean, that's a lot. That's a big deal. So it could well be that you're kind of part of the way through the process of completely overhauling your life, but it's coming incrementally. It's coming in bits and pieces. And we do think it's a little bit like trying to unravel a knot on something. You look at it and it's the biggest, hardest, most compact knot ever. But once you start to tease apart the very outside bits of it, you find by the time you get to the middle that it's already undone itself, because there's an exponential process where you undo a little bit here and it's actually undoing a little bit all the way along the line. You get to the middle expecting the real crux of the matter, and it's like it's not there, because the willingness to engage with the knot in the first place is already starting to do the work of kind of teasing it all apart. So we can't quite take action yet. I'm not entirely sure what it is that we want to create, even if we could take action. And it's been somewhat of a fact-finding exercise instead. Maybe you have been asking yourself these kind of questions that I've been talking about, like, what do I want? I'm not entirely sure. Most people, if you ask them what they want, they'll give you a list of the things that they don't want, and they won't even realise that they've done it. But they'll literally say that, and then they'll assume that they've answered your question, and they really haven't. Because when we super focus on the things that we don't want, when we hyper focus on trying to avoid bringing those things into our life, what we're doing is putting so much energy into that as a sound that is reverberating around the universe. When my first husband died, I guess the thing that I was putting out into the universe was, I don't want another narcissist. And it was just like, narcissist was the thing that was ringing out into the universe. I had no fucking idea. And then lo and behold, what happened, So I do feel like you're spending time asking yourself this question, kind of going a bit deeper with yourself. Maybe the questions are no less deep than they used to be, but the answers that are emerging are an order of magnitude deeper than you're used to receiving, I think. Where's my... where the fuck is that gone? Oh, it's right there. I get deck blindness sometimes. The deck just sits there and then I just don't see where it is. This is not a bad place to be, Aquarius, because there's a power shift going on here as well, in terms of what it is that you even believe you are capable of, which is an order of magnitude more than you used to think, but it's not quite where it needs to be yet. Still a lot of... So here's the thing, Aquarius, right? It's a really fine line. And I think you always have to be a little bit careful with the energy of the Knight of Swords, because it's Gemini as the Nine of Swords is here. But there's a way in which you can kind of think yourself into a hole. You can think yourself into a state of paralysis, but certainly a loss of perspective. And we need to always be looking for that balance. And to recognise, that's the Page of Pentacles there, to recognise where the thinking is going a little bit too deep. And it's almost thinking for the sake of thinking, right? It's this obsessive thinking to try and to come up with a solution for something, when in reality quite often what is needed is just to do something a bit different to how you would usually do it, right? I'm thinking again about this example that I used of, just switching off the fucking television in the evening, all right? Instantly you have become the kind of person who does not watch television in the evening, which opens up this whole array of possibilities of what it is that you might do instead. You see what I mean? So we're looking for thoughts that are valuable. We're looking for answers that are valuable. We're looking for things that show you what you have at your disposal actually to invest, versus the spiraling that can occur if you are not careful, right? So we've had all of this going on in the recent past, anything up to 6 weeks ago, but certainly as recently, this morning for some of you. And we move into your current energy, and we have the sun. Oh shit, is there not some Sun-Uranus conjunction? Or is it Sun-Uranus square? I literally can't remember. I ought to write all of these shit down, but I've kind of forgotten. And I really, really like this, because we've done a lot of talk about breakthrough energy this month. And I think I would put the emphasis on breakthrough rather than innovate or experiment, or, you know, just having a very clear idea of where it is that you're going moving forwards. It's just kind of like, this moment. And we're seeing it actually borne out here by the sun at the same time, because the sun is about illumination. It's about a lot of things, actually. It's about, you know, it can be about your inner child. It can be about children. It could be about random Leos that you know. But for me, it talks about consciousness, and those things that are done consciously, those things that are understood consciously, and those things that are enacted consciously. You know, what we've got here is an absolute aha moment. Oh my God, I've got it. I understand. I see things now. Very much of the nature of the sun to illuminate, very much of the nature of the tower, if you're so, you know, disposed to represent some sort of breakthrough in this area. And then we have the Six of Wands and the King of Cups underneath. I just think this is glorious. Jupiter in Leo here, again, representing an almost transcendent state of moving beyond the weeds that you've been kind of lost in for a little bit, Aquarius. Now, obviously, I'm not talking to the Aquariuses who have a very clear sight of where they are going and understand perfectly the path that they're on. I'm talking to the Aquarians who've been kind of moving backwards and forwards and going, I can feel this energy starting to build. I can feel this desire for novelty starting to appear. I can feel the need for change, but I just can't quite work out which way it is that I'm supposed to change, that I'm supposed to transform into. It's saying it's all happening right now for you, Aquarius. And to that end, I would pay very, very close attention to quite simply how you are feeling about things, because the King of Cups here is the active expression of emotion, right? So it's almost like the more conscious awareness of what is happening on an emotional level with you at any given point. The queen not being here, but kind of implied by the presence of the king, just as the presence of a queen will imply the presence of a king, but doesn't necessarily guarantee it's happening. The idea being that the queens help us process whatever suit they represent, right? So the Queen of Cups is going to help you understand how you feel. The King of Cups is then going to take action based on this feedback loop that's going on between him and the Queen of Cups. We're talking about heightened intuition, but we're also talking about potentially a heightened emotional awareness and experience that is nevertheless not overwhelming in a way that it might have been to you in the past. You know, whenever the king shows up, the king and the queen represent the mastery of whatever suit they're talking about. In this case, mastery of the emotions and decisions made, actions taken off the back of this new elevated understanding of emotions. And, you know, there we have the Six of Wands, a card that talks about success, a card that talks about having struggled in the weeds, right? The Five of Wands is Saturn and Leo, like really being in a state of conflict, really in a state of struggle, before emerging victorious, unharmed, and transformed by the experience of the Saturnian struggle that we have been in. And so I said very deliberately, like, you've kind of been in the weeds with this one a little bit, Aquarius, but my God, is it all starting to come right this month? Because for the rest of March, the card that we have is the Seven of Cups. Now, often a card that is associated with illusion and confusion, it isn't always a great card. Quite simply because the way that it's depicted usually shows somebody who is being asked to make some sort of decision based on information that they don't really have, right? And it's in the cups. I say this because, let me see if I can find this card so I can show you exactly what I mean. in a lot of the depictions of the Seven of Cups, there are cups that are elevated beyond the point where, you know, the person concerned is able to actually see within them to tell what is going on inside a cup. They just can't do it. And so they're having to make their decision from, there we are, from a place of fuzziness, right? Here, he's quite literally silhouetted. He's quite literally in the dark, where all of these things are shining. And sometimes you could look at this card and say, beware, not all that glitters is gold, right? You know, you could end up with a snake, or you could end up with a dragon, or you could end up with poison, as there is in... now we've got a little skull on the cup here, but certainly in the Triple Goddess Tarot, right, one of the cups actually holds poison in it, and it's like, from your vantage point, you can't see what it is, and so there's an intuitive, almost guesswork that needs to happen, where you need to take the cup and experience it for good or for ill before the way starts to become clear. Now, where the Llewellyn differentiates from that more general understanding of the energy of the Seven of Cups is, first, having this person from a point of illumination rather than silhouette, right? So she herself is also part of the light, as the cups are. And she's sitting on the ground. Yes, the cups are elevated above her. She cannot see into them, but she is releasing these butterflies that are able to flit around and check out what is in the content of each of these cups. You know, the King of Swords, which is your card, Aquarius, is actually associated with the butterfly. It's one of the symbols that you see with the King of Swords. I'm going to see if I can ping him up. There he is. He's got a butterfly on the back of his throne here. It represents the ability to be able to engage with an idea without advocating it. It's talking about this kind of mental flitting around and being able to see things from all of these different angles without being weighed down by any of the things that you discover in the process of kind of mentally flitting about and analysing the situation. And so I really, really like this when it shows up for Aquarius, because it's like you're actually putting your mind to good use, and it's objectively reporting back what is in the cups. It's objectively reporting back what you feel emotionally about moving in this direction versus this one. I mean, the 7 is a number that I kind of associate quite a lot with Aquarius anyway, a little bit with Scorpio too. It's a number of truth seeking. It's a number of looking for answers in things, where sometimes people who have 7 in their numbers fall down is they are constantly up in their head, you know, finding solutions for problems that exist, but without actually coming back to implement those in their real life in some sort of way, right? It can be an extremely cerebral number. But I like the fact that there's this to and fro conversation, or maybe it's even a 3-way conversation going on between the woman, the butterflies, and the cups. Everything's reporting back, and it's like a checking in with yourself, Aquarius, because your emotions are so much stronger and you're taking actions based on what has been illuminated for you. It's almost like it's illuminated all of the options that are in front of you. And I don't feel any sense of rushing, and I want to make that very clear, because there's the Knight of Wands again on its side. It's a card of a great energy of movement, right? Huge movement energy with the Knight of Wands, but it's saying not yet, not quite. We're not quite there. The aim of the exercise at this point for you, Aquarius, is actually not to move forwards. It is not to start changing your life in the ways that you are beginning to see that you would like it to change. It is to allow yourself to occupy the space that you are in at the moment, where there is this conversation going on between the emotional bits of you and, you know, what's going on outside, and see how you feel about these things, because this is the 9 here, 9 of Cups, has a twofold meaning. The first is, this is very specific to me, this is the way that I read the cards, it talks about how you as an individual, manage whatever suit it represents. So in the Nine of Swords, it's how are you managing your mind, or is your mind managing you? Are your thoughts overtaking you? Are you losing perspective? Are you overly identifying with a very rigid set of thought patterns and saying, well, this is me, defines me, and I can't change away from that? Or are you recognizing that actually your thoughts are not you? So it is with the Nine of Cups. What we have is a situation that's saying, like, how do you manage your emotions, right? Or are your emotions managing you? Do your emotions dictate negatively what you will allow yourself to pursue? Or do your emotions fuel you to take you towards what is the second meaning of this card, which are your highest hopes, goals, dreams, and aspirations? There's a similar sort of an overlapping meaning with the Star card, but because the Star card is major arcana and it's energies that are happening at you, the minor arcana, it's like those things that are within your control. These are your responses to universal prompts or universal energies. And it's saying, I want to align with what is actually really good for me, what makes me feel emotionally fulfilled, what makes me feel like I'm really here and present and living my best life. You're still very much in the examination phase. Now, whether or not the big upheaval this month refers to simply the penny dropping for you and the illumination happening, or whether this is yet to show up in the rest of the month, I would say, because it's still relatively early in the month, that this is coming later. But I don't feel like it's something that you perceive as a huge crisis, Aquarius. We've got the Hermit underneath. It's certainly sending you into a new level of thinking about stuff, and the Hermit card is all about going within and checking for the answers. And I think it's the quality of your questions that is improving, and correspondingly the quality of the answers that you are receiving internally. If you are willing to stay in this state of this kind of backwards and forwards, how does that feel? I'm not sure that that's it. What about this? Oh, that feels good, but it's new, but it's okay because it's good, right? What we got underneath there, yeah, we have the Three of Swords and the Emperor. Like this, I don't really want to use the word control, because I feel like in this case the Emperor is more speaking to the established order. The established order isn't giving you something. It's time to move away from this, but what has kept you in place has been emotional in nature. Whatever comes in this month, as much as it may represent an upheaval, I think it's the missing piece of the puzzle for you. It's the bit that you've been waiting to fall into place. And I think without the time spent here with this to and fro about how you feel about things, I think it could have totally passed over your head, which is very, very interesting indeed. Now, what do we have here? Adrift. It puts me in mind of that Sisters of Mercy lyric. Oh, it's not a lyric. It's the name of an album, right? Not all those who wander are lost. We've got somebody who is, we've got a fox here who's adrift, but he's staring at the moon. Now, to our objective eyes, looking from the bank, staring at this fox that is sitting on a log that is basically rolling down the river. There's the water imagery, by the way. It may well look to us like that fox has lost its way. It's simply sitting on a log, and potentially it's in a perilous state, but certainly it's not in an advantageous state in terms of what the fox likes to eat and the time, the things that it likes to do with its time. But it's allowing the process. It's allowing the water to take it where it may. It's allowing the dialogue to carry on, the conversation with the emotions to continue. And it is looking to the moon for the inspiration. It is looking to what is going on in the subconscious, right? Because these two, if this is the conscious mind, then that up there absolutely is the subconscious mind. It's allowing intuition to play its part. It's allowing a certain subconscious filtering system that is energizing within you to start bringing you the answers, rather than you feeling like you need to get out there and do something for the sake of doing it. Now, this puts you in a very, very powerful position. I think, because it means that when the energies do support movement, what we've got is a full state of alignment occurring that's going to allow you to take forward. And I would say that actually you're moving considerably further along your path than you're giving yourself credit for at the moment. Maybe some of you can see that, actually. You can see the value in what it is that's happening right now. But certainly at the point where this log comes to shore and the fox is able to jump off and you know, go, you know, start being a land-dwelling animal again, it's like the landscape around has changed and there is novelty simply in being back on dry land. This feels to me like it's opening up many possibilities for you. And out of these possibilities, there's more of an aligned state of what you feel comfortable moving towards versus where you were 6 months ago, or maybe even right now. I think this is an incredibly fucking powerful reading in terms of what's going on with you, right? The energies are huge. But it's not just because of what's happening at you, it's because of the way that you're responding to it. And I'm fucking here for this all day long, Aquarius. Like, I'm literally clapping like a seal for this. You know, and even though we are, you know, a third of the way through the month, you know, the biggest energies are yet to hit. So everything that's happening now is in preparation for these twists and turns to the story that are incoming for the rest of the month. I love this. I really, really love this for you, Aquarius. So, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to go over and do the extended. If you would like to join me, you can come join me on Circle. You can come join me over on Selfie. The links for both are in the description box below. I would be delighted to see you in either place. And because this is a really, really big month, and it's a big month for everybody. But it's a big month of the initiation of really powerful change, if we can allow that to be what's coming into our conscious awareness, you know, where we're clutching onto the old, whether it's old coping mechanisms, old strategies, old people, old situations, old versions of ourselves that we're subtly outgrowing on the daily without even recognizing it. This is where the problems are going to come in, and I think that this is where the problems will be coming in for a lot of people this year. But you don't seem to me to be one of those, Aquarius, which is pretty bitchin', I think. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. I'll see you soon.